All right, my understanding is therefore, let's look at a company like
Mm,
Pulse. Pulse does a lot of real estate. I don't think they own any
yes.
stocks or anything from what I see. So when you're um, revaluing the land and so on, is some people a school of thought? Some people would say, "Oh, but profit is profit, right?" And if they're making profits on just the revaluation gains, then shouldn't that just count? You get me?
I mean, it counts. It counts. Nobody's trying to say it doesn't count, but what I'm trying to say is, can you take it to the bank? And then at the same time, should a bank lend you against it when it could very easily go the other way? And then how do you, on what basis do you evaluate? Is it, because something else to remember, is currencies. So suppose you have a company booking every bit of revenue in US dollar equivalents, right?
Hmm.
But they don't value their real estate relative to US dollars. In other words, if you have a property and you say, "Oh, I bought for 100 million Jamaican, well, it's now worth a billion," but Jamaican dollar in that time went from 50 to 300, right? And you are reporting as US as a base currency that you convert to Jamaican at the time or the end of the quarter. Is that really a revaluation upwards or not? You get what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying it's very dangerous,
Yeah,
and it's non-cash gains. And many times people will, and I think they're misguided, institutions will lend against these elevated, not elevated, these increase, this increased profitability.
mm,
And it begs a question, is that, are they exercising due care in that regard? I think there are examples of that locally, and it frankly makes me a little concerned.
mm,
But I've been wrong before, maybe wrong again, but I'm still worried. I see a lot of big profits and no cash. And cash pays the bill. You can't take your profit and loss statement to a bank and to a supplier and say, "Here's my profit and loss statement, give me the goods." It doesn't work that way.
mm,
And that ties back into all the APOs. If you look at a lot of these companies, cash flow statements and balance sheets, it tells a very different story from the profit and loss. Close to home with me, I'll say that, as I said, JFP, their revenues grew a lot. I think the other income was not reported properly.
mm,
I think other income should be separated from the operational performance of the business. It would have meant, obviously, that last year's 12 months would not have been good because other income grew a lot. But then this year, other income was flat,
yeah,
relatively speaking, and but the operational side of the business was a lot more robust.
I
So
agree that
I'm
I
not just
like that.
picking on
I like that
competitors.
report because I mean, people saw the expenses go up, people saw a loss, and some were turned off. But if you really look
Yeah,
at it, the revenues, the core business has gone up, right? The revenues have significantly increased.
correct.
So, and they stated why the loss happened. It was they had to just write off from. I think when you write off inventory like that, it's gonna hit expenses. So that
Yeah,
was just maybe a one write off. To me, that's just like a one off
yeah.
expense. So to me, when you see the next report, and I think the next report's gonna be banging. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, as I said before, we don't just, I think there's going to be a lot more to the JFP story and the Spirit Tree and RPL stories that I think investors would take a keen interest in. Um, but the moral of the story I was sharing was that I'm not just picking on companies I have nothing to do with. I can always speak honestly about the ones I'm involved with as well. So I think there has to be due care given. 'Cause a lot of times people are forming impressions of things that have nothing to the business, nothing to do with the business they're buying into, and that can be problematic if it's not, if there's no intervention where it's not concerned, or if the buyer is not aware.
Hmm.
And that is really my concern. I'm not a not an advocate for any class of investor, but I do think in a transparent environment, everybody wins, and that's really all I'm concerned about. We finished talking about JFP. Oh, I remember what I was saying about JFP. I'll tell you one thing now. I find it very funny that a year ago, so I tell you guys that a week or 2 weeks in my world is like a minute.
Mhm.
That a year ago, you had all these people saying all this stuff, about the organization or about the business. Some closer to home than others. I mean, there was, brokerage community, blah, blah, blah. I know I hear there being some positive sentiments about the business in some quarters, and it's just always interesting to see how things unfold. I mean, maybe better late than never, I guess, but it's just always interesting observing how sentiment can change. I probably should say more. I really don't follow these things
I
much,
mean, I
but
can I can see that
it's
you'd probably
it's,
just
it's,
see it on your timeline
it's
sometimes, just watching the sentiment. It's
yeah. I mean, I don't get a lot of. I'm not being aloof. I mean, when I'm online, like the phone's in my hand. If I miss something,
mhm.
someone has to bring it to my attention, or I'm not gonna see. Like if I don't see it, which is why sometimes I can respond to stuff really quickly because the phone's in my hand and I have a second, I'm gonna respond. I'm not going to delay it to make it look like I'm cool or something. Like if I see you say something 10 seconds ago, I will respond because I can get a phone call and then I'm away from the phone or computer for 2 hours. So I miss a lot. Like I haven't seen much. The last thing I remember, which is I guess funny, I guess, was the whole do not participate stuff, which was pretty funny, which was pretty funny
Yeah.
for a while it lasted. But that was it. I'm gonna have a bigger laugh about that soon, but that will go down in the history books for sure. I think for sure. Like there'll be some interesting stuff with all the businesses very, very, very soon.
Something that I found that was pretty interesting. There was this article that I think came out yesterday or today. Let me try to find it. It was about um, the number of hotel rooms that are planned. Because I've been tracking what the government has been saying about some projections. Like, oh, we want to have this set amount of rooms and stuff like that. But then a recent article came out that was basically even um, putting way higher projections. And then the one of the first companies that I thought of that could benefit heavily from that um, was JFP, because JFP could announce some sort of partnership with some of these hotels, or maybe it's even, I can imagine, like, say it's like it's not just Jamaica who is capitalizing on the tourism rebound. There's other like countries in the region. Oh, okay. So say I'm a resort owner. I want to set up three
Mm,
different resorts. One in Jamaica, maybe one in Damrep, one in Trinidad. Some.
mhm,
If I want to,
mhm.
if I use JFP for to supply the hotel, the different aspects of the hotel, whatever parts in the rooms in Jamaica, there's a high chance, in my view, that they would actually likely use the same supplier for possibly the other countries, because if JFP, it says that they have been trying to capitalize on that whole um what would you say, the high shipping costs and stuff like that. And so that's something that was
Yeah,
benefiting them. The whole that people used to buy things from China, but then because it takes so long to ship and then the shipping cost goes are so much, they're like, why don't I use JFP? So that I
yeah.
found that pretty interesting. I was like, how did it go up to 20,000 rooms from, I think before they were saying 8,000 or 8,500 rooms?
Or
That's quite a big increase.
Don't they export duty free? Um,
I don't know that much.
I need to check it.
There's some
Sorry, I
Caribbean
just found a drink. I don't know that much.
basin initiative, I think you're
They
talking about.
export to like they may, like they do. I think I did like Starbucks and all them in Trinidad,
Mm.
like three
Not just
Starbucks
Trinidad
or
too. I
something.
think they did
One of them.
some in like uh,
I don't know. Like
Cayman
they're
maybe.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all over. I think to answer the question, it's not far fetched. I think for them, it may just be can they meet all of the demand that may come up, and is there opportunity to expand? Is there is what does that look like? I think there's no shortage of business,
Mhm.
and they've reopened the manufacturer in parts. I mean, obviously not them alone, but they have reopened manufacturing in Jamaica at a small enough level. And but manufacturing is time intensive,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like making, especially if it's not food.
Mm.
We doing contract manufacturing. It's you have to. I mean, you're talking about if you need to do 200 bed frames, for argument's sake, you have to make sure the, the sample you produce, the prototype matches their expectation. Produce it at scale, make sure there's no defects.
Yeah. I think
So it's a very precise exercise.
mhm. 'Cause that's what got
And
them in
then
December
sometimes,
too. It was what they said was that I think it was quality control. Like they wanted the client. Should probably quote the exact thing, but what I got from
oh, they said all of that.
yeah, they
Oh
actually
wow, them guys, they're transparent.
yeah, because they're
Yeah.
saying, hold on,
Yeah.
let me read the exact thing.
Yeah.
So what this,
Long story short, yeah,
so
go
what they
on.
said, uh, let's see, due to a combination of factors. Oh, the company took a decision to upgrade its product offerings to meet market demands, which resulted in a large volume of its inventory becoming unusable for quality control purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, so for something like them in their business, you want recurring customers. So if there's ever an issue where I've made something and it's not to the quality you want, it's kind of in my best interest to fix it because if I fix it now, even if I book a loss for 1 quarter, imagine if I have you for a client for the next 10 years.
Mm. Well, and the client, I mean, they did TGIF,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
so I mean, all the business is more or less multi-jurisdictional, so it makes good sense if you ask me. And especially they're competing with, I mean, the smaller guys, right? They can't compete with a big Chinese operation. It's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not. I mean, the scale
The
these guys are
scale,
at is just a
labor
different level
costs.
altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, all loves. The shipping is what kills it, and the transit time.
Mm-hmm.
But for the little engine that continues to chug along and grow, I don't think they finished the big contract they had
The
mentioned. If they
Mobay
had,
one.
they'd have probably announced it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause I was looking at that. That one has been delayed because it was initially supposed to be booked from like maybe Q3 last year.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I don't think it's been booked.
yeah.
So you're seeing all of that without that being booked, which
Mm-hmm.
tells you
Mm-hmm.
the kind
Because
of
that contract was like 150 mil.
million US. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I have to be careful because I don't read the releases. So I kind of take my cues from what you guys say, and if you say certain things that I know at least is public, so I have to just be very. So if I listen first,
Yeah.
don't take nothing from it, and I just have to be sure because I'll just go run off, man. And then next thing, I'm begging somebody for bail because they've locked me up,
Yeah, that's not our
with
intentions
demons.
at all. At all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, yep, yep.
There's one in the SSL person in jail, and I'm forced to join them. So
Uh, Even something interesting too. I follow JFP on
yeah,
Instagram, and they recently made a post. The post was titled "Build Your Dream House with Us." Um, I didn't actually know that they did it. They don't
is
really
it?
speak much about. Well, maybe I don't remember, but in the prospectus, I don't remember them saying much about like residential stuff and thing. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And they show some
Yeah,
nice
that
pictures.
isn't.
Let me send you.
Really?
Yeah, let me.
I'm gonna look.
Let me go.
You serious?
Let me go
I don't
find
recall
it.
them
I didn't
saying
know
that
that.
at all in the prospectus.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, I'm seeing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, right? If you're going to do a villa, I mean, it has to make sense in terms of
Mm-hmm.
size.
Yeah.
Oh, that is mother's. If you're doing a
Mm-hmm.
villa, that's worth $3 million
Mm-hmm.
US.
Or a villa complex. Imagine
Um,
having 10 little places there.
exactly,
Like, it kind of actually can make sense.
exactly. I mean, then that is right up their
Mhm.
alley.
Yeah.
What I really want to see from them
But it is
is
not.
managing
Mm,
their electricity or their energy costs, because something I think that they've said is that they in the prospectus they had said that during the day they have the solar power, like the panels, so that's covered. But something I wasn't so sure about was that, like with solar power, the big part is like the batteries. The batteries are actually the more expensive part of a solar operation. So I kind of wanted to know how
yeah,
much of that, like how, I don't know what level of storage they have on the batteries, because if they keep getting this increased demand and then they still have this factory here, like what, I guess there's technically like a sweet spot, and then like how much will they start going over into it, and then you have to be paying JPS. So that was something that I thought was kind of interesting. I'd love to see them doing like some sort of renewable energy push, and then also eventually expanding the factory, because they actually spoke about buying a property. They
Mm-hmm.
spoke about buying a property next to it from last year, like early last year.
Yeah.
Um,
behind them.
yeah, so I definitely, and I think when I looked at Google Maps, I think there was space near them, like there was some land.
The land is
It's
behind
literally,
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's literally like right
Yeah.
behind them.
yeah.
So I think,
It's back of there. It's
because I
behind them.
think there's gonna be a lot
That,
of
that's
business
space
they're
test,
getting,
man.
but it's just, can they capitalize on that?
So I'll say for the investor, like I think you've made a very compelling case for why people should look at them to hold and benefit from all of these developments when they get all of that right, and then maybe when they get it right, if you decide you want to sell it, can sell. But I think you've adequately and accurately captured the state of play, and there may be a surprise or two where they're concerned. Let's see.
I'm waiting for
Mm.
those announcements. JFP signs X and X Hotel to, do multiple resorts or something like that. I'm just waiting for it,
Yeah.
because I think those announcements are just gonna be, rolling in.
Let's see. I think, as I've said before to them, I think they need to do a better job of publicizing the
That they
work
do.
they've done.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
you
Because their
know,
work is really good.
because if, yeah, look at TGF. Like I never knew you have all these people going in TGF and taking pictures and posing and whatever. They should have been. I mean, they may have been. I didn't even know they were on
Mm.
IG.
Yeah, they actually post some of
But
their work.
general.
That's why I follow them. Like they'll say, "Oh, we did this Starbucks in, whatever."
Oh, they did post TGF, and but it's never really. I mean, I see no whole heap of people.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like they
That
could
chat.
kind of market it better. Like maybe they could have a competition where, oh, if you post your
Well,
thing,
40 people like it. That's nobody.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have some, you know, all manner of people posting stuff and getting 4, 5, 600 likes, 1,000, 2,000. I mean, all right, the hot girls aside, forget that one. You have all these things that can be making waves, and people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's good. It's business. It makes it actually one of the reasons I'm so passionate about investing, because it makes people money.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like everything that is out there, generally speaking, is to take money from you, and you never get it back. In this case, this you takes money from you and you get back
Hmm.
more time often than not.
Mm-hmm.
That really should be, if you think about it, that should be at the heights of person's appeal. It really should be, because it's money. Like you make money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like yeah, shoes and all that's nice, liquor or whatever, whatever. But what beats investing in something and making money at the end of it? You know.
No, you're right.
So that passion isn't there. That fuel needs to be there, and I don't know. I don't get it, man.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, because the thing is too, if you think about it,
I went to advertisement.
if
Yeah.
um if the JFP team were to be more to market stronger, like they had, you had lots of people, like their page was, they had a lot more followers, they had like maybe competitions or things where people would be sharing stuff, like that can benefit JFP because more people can start to hear about JFP, just like when they have the IPO. I'm sure that there was at least one business that maybe never knew about JFP, could be a potential customer, and at least call them and said, hey, do you think maybe we could do work out a deal or something? Even if it didn't work out, at least they had that opportunity. I'm sure that they probably at least signed one new deal or some new customer since listing because of like just the IPO marketing. So I feel like a lot of companies don't realize how powerful just marketing can be, and just having more people know about stuff, because as much as like you can do something and if no one knows about it, nothing's gonna happen, you know.
But I'll say this, like, I think in like business as a whole, how you present yourself to persons, how consistently you do that, I suppose that's called marketing, can be a major difference maker.
Hmm.
It's not really about me, but I send out this weekly email. I've been doing it for 13 years, and it's like second nature. So people ask what I do. I'm tempted to say I really just send out an email every week because it really feels like all I do more often than not. I have phone calls every day. I have WhatsApp messages every day, and but really I just have a weekly showcase from an email that is is free. I mean, it costs me the Mailchimp account now, but 30 US, I guess I can afford that monthly. But past that, I can tell you it has been a tremendous source of competitive advantage for me. So much so that other brokerage houses have, they used to do it, they do it for a month and them say this is too much hard work and stop. I'm still doing mine, and theirs was nowhere near as customized as mine is. And they had a whole team doing it. For me, it's just me. In fact, mine goes up from my Gmail. I don't even do it from Grace Candy's account. The point is that it it's a way I communicate with the public. In fact, there was one time, there was an iteration where if I had like a block of shares selling, I'd send it out via that same email. Blocks start get too big now, so I can't do that anymore. 'Cause, confidentiality. But the point is, they can identify who. But the point is, that has been a free way of growing my business, and I think many times players ignore the power of what communication can bring. I can tell you this: JFP's IPO is what got me Regency.
Oh.
Regency closed in 6 months. I never knew Andrew before. I mean, I know him well, no, but it was JFP's going public is what opened a lot of eyes to the possibilities within the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So even the JSE, I don't think markets itself well enough. It doesn't present itself well enough. Yeah,
No, I
sure,
agree 100%.
people like
Yeah.
yeah, people like me. I'd say, we've done this, that. We brought this company public, that one public. You can buy in and whatever, whatever. And yeah, we did half the IPOs last year, right? And I mean, I'm working on 7 deals now, which really could all be 7 IPOs, rights issues, whatever the case may be, APOs. But this is all facilitated by the JSE.
Hmm.
It's through the JSE. We have a Limitless. We have the other podcasts around the place, and you have people teaching class and bridging the information gap, which I should be encouraged. I don't agree with all of them, but I think it's helpful. That's why you have a market, because you're not going to have one opinion reigning supreme, and that's how it should be. Opinions will contend, and time will tell who is right. I'm trying to be right, but that's fine. The point, though, is how you present these things to people can be a massive determinant of success, and many times it doesn't need to be expensive. I have arguments in my office all the time that I don't want to go into this. Not arguments. I've said, listen, we can do more in terms of how we communicate with others,
Hmm.
and it doesn't need to require. a lot of money. It can be as simple as using the social media space properly, paying somebody $50,000 a month to just service our account. I don't know if that's the going rate. I figure it can be much more than that. But the point, I mean, I know it's what some you pay some tellers or whatever the case may be. But the benefit can be much more. Maybe not for us because we're a more niche market business. But the communication, as you rightly said, I think it was Matthew. I think I don't want to get said that JFP would have benefited from going public. Absolutely, because they were in the news every day.
Yeah.
People are talking about it on Twitter and they're trending, and we know the good and the bad and the ugly. Fine, but it all matters.
Hmm.
It's all
Yeah.
important. But my saying do not participate was to draw attention to the damn stock. I was happy for it. It was an opportunity to talk about it.
Hmm.
But I mean, some people took it too far, so whatever. But the point is that it's
Yeah.
publicity, and finance. It's the markets are about publicity. You can't buy into what you don't know about. I don't even cost nothing. I mean, it can be as simple as the CEO tweeting or
I love that. Like you notice that more and more finance people are, or high ups, I'd say, are tweeting. So like Chris Berry, he's tweeting, and then now Paul Simpson.
no. I think the community is a wonderful thing. I think it signifies growth. I think it's
Hmm.
important. I mean, it's I mirror. I look at what the U.S. I've always looked at what developed markets do and figure how is this going to translate to a developing market, and then I kind of try and use that to plot some dots as far as where I think the future is going to be. To plot some points, and the USA. Hold on. The USA, the investment community is a very robust and live community.
Wall
Where
Street
you have the
bets.
Robin Hoods and the Reddits and meme stocks, and it's a byproduct of it's a byproduct of Jim Cramer and all these
Yeah.
personalities online and TV. Shark Tank and all these things is just part of an ecosystem. Bloomberg that I'm watching now, or that's on the background, or I'm going to turn on when we're done. It's all part of an ecosystem, and I think Jamaica is just now starting to get there, and I think as well that's why we have cross border appeal,
Hmm.
and which is why I think we're in a I think Matt Gales called it this golden window, which is very accurate. I don't know the details of it, but I mean, apart from the general optimism, the the capital market itself as a facilitator of access is super critical. I think a lot of people don't appreciate what it actually means, and which is why I am wary when I say to people, wary of persons exiting stuff, because there's nothing worse than when I say exiting stuff, I don't mean selling. I mean in terms of, oh, I may sell to buy back. I remember the Red Stripe story. I probably tell it once a week now, but I lived through it, so it's so real. We were Red Stripe was flat at $4 and $5 and $6 for a number of years. And I remember the one thing that jumped out at me at the time was nobody was selling, and we always had people wanting to buy the stock. More from my side, I remember one of the senior managers there was trying to get 2 million units at the time, way before the acquisition. We couldn't get the stock. The people who were holding it wouldn't sell, and it was paying dividends. And that's why I say I watch the business. I don't watch the stock as much. And I mean, shock and awe, like bloody thing go from like $6 to 32 once the buyout was announced. But it was a good business. You know what I'm saying? And the point I'm making is, with increased access from outsiders into the capital markets, what you're holding today that may seem cheap at 10 Jamaican dollars It's not far fetched that in 5 years it could be 10 US. You see where I'm going? Just because of that external participation and external acquisitions.
Mm,
Now, I mean, regardless of how much of a stock you have, if you go from 10 Jamaican to 10 US, it's a boatload of money. That's life changing money,
yeah.
and that was earned passively. And that's what I want for investors. I mean, not everybody's going to get it, but I can tell everybody who had Red Stripe, and Red Stripe was one of the stocks I was buying. Like when you had asked me earlier about what we're buying for that family member, Red Stripe was that staple in every portfolio. Kind of like what last time is now. I mean, I think it's super cheap and it's growing, but the price not moving. But I mean, I still earn money. I can buy other things, but I drive past 60,000 square feet at White Mall whenever I go into Spanish Town.
Hmm.
But I mean, and they have no long term debt. So that's why my investing style is that way. And as I said before, all styles will contend. I will only say all the rich stock investors I know are the long term guys. So I take my investments like that, the tree. But listen, we could die waiting on the long term. So we can't knock it either,
Yeah.
that somebody doesn't want to approach it that way.
That's always one of my fears. Like, imagine waiting, like, say you take a 10-year goal or something like that, or 20 years, and then you start buying this stock. 3 years down the line, it hasn't moved. 5 years down the line, it hasn't moved. 10 years down the line, it hasn't moved. Like, it's kind of tough sometimes. Versus, for where I am right now,
Yeah.
even though I do have a long term approach, I find it easier when I've split it up. So I could meet a 10-year goal, but I'll work it by year, because I find that, I guess, a bit easier, and I think it's more suited for my current state. Um, yeah, yeah.
Well, you're better than me. I don't have a 10-year goal.
Mhm.
So my company is based in the valley now. And we just hold it. I buy it based on
Mhm.
where it is now. I check it every so often to see where it is, what's the forecast, I watch every earnings season, what the numbers look like, what they're projecting, blah blah blah. If it look like it going places, I'm gonna hold on. But I stopped saying, I guess
Do you do that
because
same
I
strategy
still
with
work.
GK?
uh,
Meaning, like, give an example. So you see a company
um,
you really like, you love the business, right? You buy it, let's say, even RPL, you listed RPL, listed it at $1, it shot up, right? Went to like maybe 230s or so, and then it just dipped right back down to maybe around 130s or so on. As I mean, I can imagine for Ryan Strachan, you treat it. I don't know if you would treat that separately from GK, right? Because if for me, if I manage a fund,
when you said when you said GK, what do you mean?
meaning, or
GK as
I should
in
probably say your clients then.
GK the stock or GK? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Buying
okay,
into
okay.
to RPL, because how I would treat it is, if I see this business and I like this business, I'm gonna buy more, right? If it's tanking, I'm buying more, and I would do the same for my portfolio as I would do for my clients and so on. So is that the same approach you would take as well?
All right, so let me say what I did for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little bit of units.
Mhm.
I think I'm in the top 20 shareholders. I have to check. But I bought in the IPO and I doubled my position at $1.50. So today I think it's 212 or something.
Yes.
But again, the nuance is RPL is energy. RPL is energy, really,
Mm-hmm.
and petrochemicals. So, I mean, it's very strong in cooking gas. They're about to open two gas stations.
Mhm.
So, you know what that is going to do for its revenue. Could have already spent the money on the gas stations. So, there's no increased expense
Mm-hmm.
coming in terms of. past, what they pay to buy gas and pay staff and whatever, right? And you would have seen what the gas stations Fesco brought on stream did for them. So my approach really is it really depends. I'll tell you this: if too many people like a stock, you're not gonna find me buying it
I like that strategy.
because when I need to buy, if I need to deploy, if I really like a stock, right? Meaning not just for myself, no, but for my clients. We could be looking for $1 million US worth of the stock. No, that's not very easy to get on the Jamaica Stock Exchange,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we would need to be assured that we could get what we're looking for, or else it don't make sense. So what I said before, 138, we sold 22.5%. At the time, I think it was below IPO price. It was like three. We sold it. We did the trade, I think, at 380. It may have been. So we're able to tack on, for some clients, and then we'll get some for somebody else at $3 or whatever the case was. But the point is for me, if I like something, I'm buying it. And I can't speak for Grace Kennedy, though I don't think I understood the question fully. But the position, if I'm there and we like it for clients, we'll buy it for clients. I have to be very careful again because not only am I an advisor, but I source IPOs, I will close them. So I can't fall into the trap of selling what I bring to the table because there's risk in that in terms of how I could be perceived. So I haven't really bought RPL for clients, not for any reason other than I have to be careful of the conflict.
Mm.
So I buy for myself, but to go interrupt positions for that is troublesome. Now I bought 138 before any of this deal surfaced because nobody can say, oh, well, and sign deal with them. And, 'cause some troublemaker is going to try and do that at some point. It just comes with the
Yeah.
territory. So that's how I separate it because I'm in the two lanes. And remember, ultimately, my first responsibility is to the client I'm listing because they have signed a mandate with us for the
Mhm.
purpose of raising the capital for them and taking them public. So, I mean, I think RPL was, I think, a $600 million business from 40, 45 is extraordinary.
Mhm.
I don't, if you know where the facility is by Sablamar, sorry, it is quite an accomplishment. I think the family, Williams family, is a top class set of persons, top class family, like really, really decent
Mm-hmm.
people. And I think the business has legs. I think the service stations will augur well for the business. There'll be both in Westmoreland, one in Paradise, one in Negril. And yes, I mean, generally, I mean, we did Spur Tree. Again, I never bought Spur Tree, bought some Spur Tree for clients, but that was after the IPO. After the IPO. You may know what I'm talking about if you think long and hard enough. So I mean, it depends. It depends. It's never, I was said earlier, it's never one size fits all. It's driven by the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, the opportunity. If we can muster the cash to be able to like make it happen, make it happen,
Mm.
make it happen like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I think RPL was actually on our. So I don't know if you saw, but we did a stocks to watch video basically for this year, and that RPL was one of those stocks on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it go right now.
I think it deserves.
Yeah, I think
I think it
I
deserves
think will
that.
be interesting too.